The Locked On Podcast Network presents the College Sports Big 3 in 30. The three biggest stories in college sports. From our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. Bringing you the real story. Why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 30 minutes. The College Sports Big 3 in 30 starts now with the biggest story in college sports.
What went wrong for the Longhorns offense against Ohio State? A lot.
You are Locked On Longhorns, your daily podcast on the Texas Longhorns. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We need to talk about this Texas offense. There was a lot that went wrong in Columbus. The numbers back it up. The eye test backs it up. I mean, the scoreboard kind of tells the whole story, right? 7 points. You're not going to win a lot of football games when you only score 7. It was ugly. It was downright ugly for Texas. And there were plenty of things that didn't go well on that side of the football. And there's a lot that needs to get cleaned up. But there is one thing that concerns me more than anything else coming out of that loss at the Shoe. Again, a lot that needs to be cleaned up. There's no doubt. I'm pretty confident that most of it can and will be fixed. The one thing that really worries me, the red zone. Why, you ask? Well, because it was a problem in 2023, and it was a problem again in 2024, and it's still a problem in 2025, at least at the start of the 2025 season. What do they say? Once is by chance, twice is a coincidence, 3 times is a pattern. We're into year 3 of this. It's not chance or coincidence anymore. This is a pattern, and it's a continuation of a very bad one for Steve Sarkisian and Texas football. The Longhorns had 2 trips inside the red zone on Saturday. They walked away with 0 points. That's right, a goose egg. Not only did they not get in the end zone, they didn't score at all on their 2 trips inside the Buckeye 20. And for the second time in as many games against Ohio State, Texas had a chance to tie the game in the second half. They get all the way down to the Buckeye 1-yard line, and they couldn't punch it in. Obviously, at the Cotton Bowl in January, it was a 1st and goal from the 1-yard line in the final minutes of regulation. This one was a 4th and goal from the 1-yard line, but a similar spot, Texas 1 yard away from tying the game in a big spot against a great team, and they just couldn't get the job done. And it's unacceptable. Look, again, the whole offense was bad. It took Texas way too long to get inside the 20 anyways. They didn't even make it into the red area until the second half. But when they finally got there, they completely peed down their leg twice. They have no identity down there. There's nothing that Texas can lean on inside the 20s. And the crazy thing to me is they had 232 days to figure this out. 232 days between the Cotton Bowl and the game on Saturday. What did they come up with all of that time off? That. I mean, it looks like they added a quarterback power, and they tried to add a QB sneak, and they hoped that like those 2 things were going to be good enough to fix the last 2 years worth of red zone struggles. Not so fast, my friend, to quote the now retired legendary Lee Corso. It's more of the same. And of course, the last 2 Texas seasons ended in red zone failure. And it just feels like every big game that Texas has lost in the last few years has included at least one moment where they couldn't get the job done in the red area. And maybe more specifically at the goal line. The Oklahoma game in 2023, 1st and goal from the 1. You can't punch it in. Obviously, the semifinal game at the Sugar Bowl against Washington. You get to the red zone with a chance to win the game and get to a national title. You come up short. The SEC title game against Georgia last year. The college football playoff last year. And now this. Texas hasn't lost a lot of football games in the last few seasons. Every time they lose, you can almost point directly to a moment or a couple of moments in these losses where they just can't get the job done in the red zone. I'll dive into the play calls in a second. We'll break down exactly what was called and exactly what went wrong for Texas. But just to put in the context that this isn't much to do about nothing. In 2023, Texas was 89th in the country in red zone offense, scoring at about 80%. only a 50% touchdown percentage. The 80% was touchdowns and field goals combined. They only scored touchdowns on 50% of their red zone trips. In 2024, the overall red zone offense got worse. The Longhorns were 111th in the nation in red zone offense, scoring points on just over 77% of their trips. They did improve their touchdown percentage, going up to 64, but still not good enough. And again, the overall numbers actually got worse. And you look at the 3 losses that Texas had in 2024, Texas was 37.5% in terms of touchdown percentage in those 2 Georgia games, and of course the Ohio State game as well. And then here in 2025, Texas tied for dead last in the country with a 0% red zone success rate. Touchdown percentage, scoring percentage, it doesn't matter. You're over 2. That is another giant goose egg right there. Texas's red zone stats have gotten worse in every year that Steve Sarkisian has been the coach. Believe it or not, their best year was in 2021, year 1, when Texas was 5-7. Like, they were one of the best red area teams in the sport. That and blocking punts, like the only 2 things they were good at that year. Went down a little bit in 2022, but again, just gave you the numbers for 23 and 24, and here we are in 2025, and it's still not figured out. They had a whole offseason to get it corrected. Sark was asked about it 100 different times, including last Monday in his game week presser, and here we go again. Same crap, different year. I'll be politically correct. All right, I promised a breakdown of the red zone opportunities. So here we go, a quick play-by-play breakdown of the 2 red zone opportunities, and then we'll do a little screen sharing here to further dive into what's happening. So the first red zone trip for Texas, the first possession of the second half, Texas gets down to the 9-yard line. They've got a 1st and goal from the 9. The first down play call, quarterback design run, works pretty well. 5-yard pickup for Arch Manning, gets down to the 4. 2nd and goal. You know what? I'm going to screen share this right now. I'm going to make sure I've got the right play pulled up here. Okay, so 2nd and goal. Here we go. This is the situation. Texas has the ball at the 4. It's an empty set. Now you see Trey Wisner in motion a little bit. He's going to run to the backfield. Looks like he's going to stop next to Arch Manning, but instead he just ends up running to the other side of the field. So this is what you've got, an empty set, Arch Manning in the shotgun. To me, this just screams QB draw. The way Arch Manning had been throwing the football, if I'm Ohio State, I'm not thinking they're going to let Arch Manning throw it in this area. And with 0 threat of a running back, why don't you have a running back there? Just the threat of a zone read, the threat of a handoff, the threat of anything. To me, this was like such an obvious quarterback power from this look. Obviously, Texas did it on the play before, so Ohio State was already looking for it. They snuff it out. It's a minimal gain, maybe a yard on this play right there. The 3rd down play call is a shotgun run to C.J. Baxter. That gets 2 yards from the 3 down to the 1. I don't love shotgun handoffs down there. I'd prefer to go under center so my running back in the backfield can get, a head of steam and a little bit of a running start, so he's running downhill when he gets the ball versus just standing at a standstill. And obviously the 4th down, the hurry up, Texas snaps the ball with like 25 seconds on the play clock. They do the quarterback sneak. Awful. Steve Sarkisian in the postgame said Texas practiced it a lot, said he liked it, but he also said that, they didn't get the big guys out there. They didn't want to sub because they didn't want to let Ohio State bring in its jumbo players on defense. So they ran it out of a different formation to try to catch Ohio State off guard. Obviously, it didn't work. I'm a fan of the QB sneak. It's the most successful short yardage play in football. It can definitely work when executed correctly. That one obviously wasn't. Texas didn't look polished at all. They looked hurried. They looked rushed. It's kind of the theme of the day for Arch Manning in this Texas offense. Here's the look that they showed. And again, it can work, but it didn't look like something that Texas had practiced all offseason. They ran one earlier in the game on the 4th down on the first possession of the first quarter. And it was like 4th down and short from their own 34. They needed about a quarter of a yard. They barely got it. And I didn't leave that play thinking, oh, that's great. We got to run that again. I'm like, yeesh, I don't know if I want to see another quarterback sneak today because that one barely got there. And, they run it again. Obviously, they don't get there. They get stuffed at the goal line. That was sequence number 1. Sequence number 2, this is a 14-0 game at this point. Early in the 4th quarter, Texas has a 1st and 10 from the 16-yard line. This was not a goal to go. This was a 1st and 10, but obviously in the red zone, so it fits the conversation here. First down play call, another quarterback run, picks up 4. Second down, shotgun run off tackle to Trey Wisner. It gets you 3. So it's 3rd and 3, and then ultimately 4th and 3. This, I'm going to criticize Sark for the first sequence of plays, right? The goal to go situation that we just talked about. Steve Sarkisian called perfect plays on 3rd and 4th down here. This is where execution matters, and this is where Arch Manning has to be better. Perfect play call on 3rd and 3. Here's the screen share right here. Oh, hit the wrong button. There we go. There's the screen share right there. Arch is under center, drops back to pass. He has a very clean pocket, at least for a while. And look, you got crossing routes over the middle of the field. Obviously, if you're in podcast form, you can't see this, but I think you remember the play. I'll try to explain it the best that I can. You got 2 crossers with Spencer Shannon and Ryan Wingo. This is right about the moment where Arch is about to throw the football. Both of those guys are wide open. Like, I understand leaning Wingo because he's Wingo and Spencer Shannon's your number 2 tight end. So throwing to Wingo is not a problem there, but the ball is at his feet. I mean, Arch throws a fastball right at the feet of Ryan Wingo. Like, if that ball's on the money, that's a first down easily. Instead, it's at his feet, so it's incomplete. If you throw it to Spencer Shannon, that's potentially a touchdown. And also at the very bottom of the screen, under the Ohio State logo on the scoreboard, you see Trey Wisner there. He's also open in the flat. So it was a great play call. There were 3 open receivers on this play. I think Arch made a fine decision going to Wingo. The ball's actually in the air. I beg your pardon. And if the ball's on the money, it's a first down. Drive stays alive. Maybe Wingo breaks a tackle and scores. Who knows? But the throw just wasn't there. So Arch Manning wasn't good. And then you get to the 4th down play call. This was another perfect play call by Sark. And a lot of the other guys on the offense executed this right. Arch Manning had the wrong read here. You see, Ryan Wingo is running kind of a slant. There was a rub route with DeAndre Moore. Wingo's running a slant. He's got about a step and a half on Jermaine Matthews, the Ohio State corner. If Arch throws it there to Wingo over the middle, that's a catch. That's a first down. Maybe Wingo takes a shot, but I trust him to hold on to the football. Maybe he breaks that tackle. Maybe he scores. Who knows? That should have been the play. Steve Sarkisian said after the game, the first read was supposed to be to Ryan Wingo. But Arch locked in on Parker Livingston. He saw a one-on-one. He took the corner out, which was a much lower percentage throw. I know Livingston was great, but that's your number 3 receiver, basically in his first game, going up against Davison Igbinosun, who's Ohio State's number 1 corner. That's a low percentage matchup. That's a low percentage throw. Obviously, it didn't work. Incomplete pass, turnover on downs. I don't want to say ball game over, but that was, needless to say, a massive moment for Texas. So, again, all the play calling wasn't bad. This is not to absolve Sark of any of the blame for what happened in the red zone. He's got to be better down there. And ultimately, it's his responsibility to figure out how to get this issue fixed. But even the times where he did call good plays, the execution wasn't there. Texas outgained Ohio State by 133. They outrushed them 166-77. They allowed 1 sack and 1 TFL in the entire game. You should win games. You should win every game when you do those things. But situational football, Ohio State made the big plays when they needed to, just like they did in January, and Texas didn't. Red zone offense continues to be a problem. You've got to get it fixed.
Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's a 401k or properties or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there is Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. I linked all my accounts to Monarch and immediately spotted a few subscriptions I wasn't even using. Canceling those all can save you money every month. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONNFL.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels.
Bill Belichick's first career game as an NFL head coach for the Browns. literally 34 years ago to the day. Holly Rowe, in fact, even talked about it on the broadcast. September 1st, 1991. In that game, Bill Belichick and the Browns were playing the Dallas Cowboys. They lost 14-26. How crazy that it was 34 years to the day. But my point in bringing that up is this, and I said this all in the lead up, and I still do truly believe this, even after the embarrassment that just happened at Kenan Stadium with everyone filing out. This game tonight, and yes, all the embarrassment of it, everything that happened, is literally just one football game. You learn from it. You figure out why things went as horribly awry as they did, and they did. And then you move on. And you burn the tape, never to be seen again. Tonight is just one game, and there is lots of football to be played both this year and beyond. That first year for Cleveland, I think Bill Belichick went 6-10, and it was a while before he got things really to where they needed to be. And like, again, I was saying this before this game even started. Not that I wanted to throw this game away, although I do now. It's just to say that one game in, we don't know good or bad. Were Carolina to have been on the other side of 48-14, I would be saying the same thing. Don't get all high and mighty, because you could just as easily lose to Charlotte next week or whatever it is. So there it is. Even after this loss, I continue to say it's just one game. You learn from it, and then you keep on trucking. That said, number 2 point coming out of all this, it was a brutal first game. And like, you just have to take it. You got to take it on the chin. I already know, like, Kenton Gibbs, one of our Locked On Wolfpack hosts, is licking his Wolfpack chops for the ACC squad show that we will record on Tuesday evening. I know it. Alex Dono has already told me, our great host of Locked On ACC, that I've got to lead things off. So look, when you get embarrassed, you got to stand up and own it, and you keep going. Here's the truth of the matter. Things could not have gone more better. That's not even a right phrase. Things could not have gone better for Carolina in that first drive. I mean, they came out guns blazing. Caleb Hood, who started, by the way, over Davion Gauss. Interesting bullet coming off the bench. Hood's churning things up. Gio Lopez has a couple nice completions. In fact, 2 of the first 5 plays were brilliant. Hood waltzes in, and it's like, okay, Bill Belichick and the Tar Heels, you got something here. And then they're able to force a punt from TCU. But in the same breath that I say things could not have gone better for Carolina on the first drive, I don't know that there's anything else to say, because things could not have gone more poorly the rest of this Labor Day. It was a labor to watch this game. After that, Carolina had 3 straight 3-and-outs. They had the 83 yards on their first drive, getting that touchdown. The next 3 drives went -11, 0, and 1. And the drive right after that, even thanks to Caleb Kost's wonderful tip drill interception. What up, baseball skills? Shouts and hat tips to Kamari House for the pressure. After that was the pick 6. So after that opening drive was beautiful and brilliant, and Carolina, wow. -11, 0, 1, pick 6. Oh boy, there's that. Fourth thing I want to talk about. Let's remember back. Let's go to basketball. It's Coach K's final regular season game in Cameron Indoor Stadium. There's all the media hoopla that's been created, all of the stuff, and all of the Duke alum are there. They're all wearing special shirts and jackets. They make a tunnel. There's the whole thing. And it was like a complete afterthought that the Tar Heels were even going to be in Cameron Indoor Stadium and were even going to play in the game, much less, holy cow, win it. Now, much different stakes and much more contemplation that TCU was the favorite because they were in this game. But it was very similar in terms of TCU being a complete afterthought. All along, I was like, TCU's got to feel completely disrespected, completely like redheaded stepchild. What's a stepchild with freckles, right? Like just completely overlooked, completely not thought about, despite the fact that they were the favorites in this game. Turns out that was completely correct. You think they wanted to prove something tonight, TCU? All you had to do was look at the fact that Josh Hoover, with a completely landslide blowout victory already in hand, is still in the game in the middle of the fourth quarter. Sonny Dykes to Holly Rowe after the game. He said, quote, "I think we all felt a little disrespected coming in. There was a lot of conversation and none of it was about us," end quote. And I was like, okay, Sonny Dykes is a little bit salty about how this went. And yes, they were happy to run up the score. And you know what? Kudos to you. You came out and you did the thing, right? And Carolina just had to sit there and take it because they certainly couldn't stop it and they weren't going to tackle anybody to do it. All right, let's talk about the environment a little bit. And then after that, we're going to have to take a break before we can dive into all the specifically bad things that were going on. Our guy, Josh Marlowe and Anthony Pagnotta of the Heel Tough blog, obviously long-time Carolina guys, all like have season ticket holders. They were there at the game. So I texted the two of them a little bit beforehand, probably the game kicked just after 8. I think it was probably about 7:30. I texted Marlowe to just say, like, what are the vibes? What is it like there in Keenan right now? And this was his quote back to me. "This place is a zoo, Shade. Never seen anything like it," end quote. And I tell you, the juxtaposition of those pregame scenes with all the pictures, all the video of people just filing out in droves. I mean, you guys, woof, that was embarrassing to watch happen. And the complete emptiness of Keenan in the fourth quarter, good grief, y'all. But earlier on Monday, Pete Thamel had announced that Michael Jordan was expected to be there along with Mia Hamm, LT, Julius Peppers, Eric Church, Chase Rice. He also mentioned Blake Snell, funny enough, in that tweet. And obviously there were tons of other people there. We saw Randy Moss, a lot of just Belichick people were there. And then you saw the trio sitting together, right? Michael Jordan, Roy Williams, LT. That is an insane trio sitting right there. I've got Pete. If you're late in coming, I've got Pete, Kurt Herbstreit's dog here helping me podcast this evening. And so that was absolutely crazy. I was also keeping a Jordan Hudson counter because I was very curious to see. And they showed her right after that opening drive touchdown. And I don't know that we saw her again other than when they were re-showing Randy Moss, because it was her and Randy Moss right beside each other. So that was interesting. I expected to see a lot more Jordan Hudson in this game, but we just simply did not.
Florida State didn't just beat Alabama, it's how they took them apart.
You are Locked On Seminoles, your daily podcast on the Florida State Seminoles.
There's a lot of substance regarding statistics, and it's going to show you how Florida State took apart Alabama. And I'm going to lead with this, and I'm going to reference it in different ways throughout the show. But I want you to think about this. For any football fan out there, or anybody, I don't care if you're a Noel fan or just somebody coming in curious, okay, what happened? Why did Florida State beat Alabama? If you're looking for the reason, this is the number one stat of the game. Florida State scores 31 points. 31 points. And we're going to dissect why it happened through the drives. They didn't have a short drive. All their drives were over 50 yards to get those 30 points. No short fields, no scoop and score, no punt, none of that. They physically manhandled Alabama. That's the number one theme for this show. Second, they did the things they said they were going to do. It's a boring thing to say. We're going to run the ball. We're going to be consistent. We're going to be multiple, and we're going to show a lot of eye candy. Gus said it in his opening press conference way back like in January, through spring, through summer, all the things. It was very linear, and they just did it. They told everybody what they were going to do, including Alabama, and then they did it. And then finally, let's talk a little defense. Florida State's defense was pretty good throughout the day. They gave up the opening drive, but after that, they gave up 10 points the rest of the game. We're going to dissect it statistically in all those areas. But again, we're going to start with the drives. I want everybody to hear just the literal facts. And then I'm going to break down a few of the plays and whatnot. It's amazing because, again, it's one thing to score 31 on a quality opponent. It's another when they don't hand it to you. Alabama was pretty disciplined for the most part. Shortest drive, again, 52 yards. That was the field goal that Florida State scored to go up 17-7. So, without further ado, here are the drives for the Noles. And by the way, you really can't do much better on your first 3 drives. 3 of them, touchdown, field goal. Here's how it went. First drive, Noles get the ball after Bama scored. They're up 7-0. There's only 6:10 left in the first quarter. Bama had a long drive, 15-play drive. I was like, oof, that's pretty impressive. Noles come back, 3 minutes and 4 seconds, 7 plays, 75 yards. Took just very little time to get, just consistent, like just body blow. And they punch it. Okay. Second quarter, you get the ball back. Bama doesn't score. So it's tie ball game. We got a chance. We've got a chance right here to take the lead. This is what's interesting. 3 minutes and 59 seconds for the touchdown. 8 plays, 65 yards. And it was very, very much like the drive before. They just threw when they win it, but 1-2. By the way, as a reminder, Tommy Castellanos was 9 out of 14 in this game. Again, they said we're going to run the ball. They said it all off season, and they said it in fall camp, this, that, and the other. You could read the tea leaves in those press conferences. They didn't hide anything. I mean, this is what we're going to do, and they just went out and executed it. So 3 minutes and 59 seconds on the second drive for score. Excuse me, and 65 yards. Now, if you look at it from a big box perspective, Florida State, they've got a lead. How many teams coming off a season like they did would kind of sit on it, wouldn't be as aggressive? Give Gus credit. Give Mike Norvell credit, and, of course, the players. When they kicked the field goal on that drive, Bama held them from getting the end zone, I will grant you. But Florida State just kept doing the same things, and they would just mix it up a little bit with, jet sweeps like the Danzy touchdown on the second drive or whatever. That, let's be honest, that was awesome. But I'm not sure that people realize just how much they dissected them. Bama's defensive front, if you go watch it, go back and watch some of the game. They were getting gashed 3, 5, 7 yards at a time. Dissected. They didn't know where it was coming from. Florida State outcoached them. And probably, not trying to be mean, it really wasn't that close. I don't know why. Again, they handed everybody what they were trying to do. And Gus's offense is pretty straightforward on his concepts. Now, the individual plays and who gets the ball, part of that Gus doesn't even know because it's RPO stuff. But you knew you had to win in the trenches. And you didn't. Florida State punched you in the mouth on those first 3 drives, the field goal drive being 52 yards. The tone was set. And Bama never had a charge. They never had a comeback. Florida State won because of those long sustained drives without any help. And they just slowly took Alabama's will, and they slowly took out any chance mentally that Alabama was going to have an easy day. Alabama didn't respond. They played hard. I mean, they're not a terrible team or anything like that, but there was never any doubt. The way the game was going, I got a phone call from a buddy of mine who doesn't like Bama. He's like, is Bama really going to lose this game? I said, Florida State's going to win this game. It's not close. This is early, I don't know what, third quarter, something like that. And I said, this game ain't close. They're beating them up. They're killing them at the line of scrimmage. They're telling them what they're going to do, and they're just doing it. I remember having that conversation now, and it was just great because I'm like, this is what it's supposed to look like at Florida State. So again, they took their will. They did it because they wanted to. They wanted it more. They executed it better. There's no frills at all. If you take nothing else from this pod, take that. Florida State can enforce its will on anybody. So Miami Hurricanes, the Florida Gators, anybody else on the schedule, they've got a chance in any given game. And I'm sure teams will adjust after film was out and all that. But this was pretty interesting.